welcome to episode number 2 of Brown County InFocus. I'm Jeff Flint, Brown County Deputy Executive, joined by Brown County Executive Troy Streckenbach. And Troy, coming up in this episode, we'll be talking with Devon Christianson from the ADRC. You know, the ADRC is such an important program that is very heavily involved in a lot of vulnerable populations throughout the community. And, not only do they provide these services and programs and act as a resource for the community, but also they do a lot of fun events.
I mean, you think about it, they're everywhere. You know, they have the Grounded Cafe, they have their food truck, they do a ton of programming inside the 4 walls of the ADRC, and they travel throughout the county to bring programming and learning events for the residents of Brown County. And there's actually one coming up here pretty quickly. It's September 24th. It's called Freedom from Falls, Brown County. I think it's a collaboration of multiple different agencies along with the ADRC. And they're going to talk about prevention because we know that from an elderly standpoint, if you fall, it could make your quality of life and your actual life span shorter. And so they're going to spend some time and try to teach people in Brown County on the freedom of falls and how they can prevent it. I think it'd be a good program for the listeners to attend.
Anytime you've been around a loved one who is older, when they take a fall, even falls that may seem like they're innocuous or it doesn't look like it could do a lot of damage, in fact, very often can be very damaging, not just to short-term but long-term health. So it's very important that the ADRC puts together programs like this so we can make people more aware of how to prevent those and what to do in case they do happen.
Yeah, if you're interested in joining this, we're encouraging you to secure a spot by calling the ADRC at 920-448-4300 to register. Again, that's 920-448-4300 to register. And the event is going to be at the National Railroad Museum, which they got a significant capital campaign going on. And from when I drove over the 172 bridge, it looks pretty stunning.
And we hope you can participate. And on the other side of this break, we'll discuss all things ADRC with Devon Christianson right after this.
Hello, I'm Angela here at the New Zoo and Adventure Park. I want to make sure you know all about the fun stuff we have going on this summer to enjoy. The zoo itself is open every single day of the year, and we have a ton of stuff for you to see and enjoy. We've got giraffe feeding experiences, we've got our children's zoo feeding. You can come and even do some private animal encounters with us. And of course, we also have the Adventure Park too. That's where you can enjoy a zip line tour, you can do our climbing wall, and our ropes challenge course. There's even a kids course for those that are a little bit younger, so there's really something for everybody. Make sure you come on out, check out our website at newzoo.org to get all the information. We can't wait to see you here.
Welcome back to Brown County in Focus. I'm Jeff Flint, the Brown County Deputy Executive, joined as always by Brown County Executive Troy Streckenbach. And Troy, today we have a wonderful guest, an amazing guest, who's going to talk to us all about the Aging and Disability Resource Center.
How are you doing today?
Hey, Troy. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Of course, it's Devon Christianson, who is the Executive Director for the Aging and Disability Resource Center. You've been with us for a few years. We truly appreciate your passionate leadership and committed to the mission of what the organization is. And how long has it been that you've been with the county?
Yeah, it's kind of scary,
ADRC?
right, to actually say that. I was just reflecting, actually, on my way over here, that my first job out of college was I was the Pulaski Senior Center Director.
So
yes.
you started that. You started that fight with the ADRC in Pulaski, and that I didn't realize that there was a history there.
There was, actually. That's where I really started. And I've held a number of different positions, right? All the way, a grant administrator. I was a social worker. I was the person who really kind of launched and wrote the grant for the ADRC to develop here in Brown County, in collaboration with the Human Service Department originally. Then I was the assistant director, and I've been the director. And you know what, Troy? My other reflection was when you became county executive, I became director. So we've both been 14 years as the director, but I've been with the agency for 34 years.
all of those individuals who've come before the ADRC in that time have been very fortunate.
You're so kind.
Yes. So you kind of talked about at one point you helped write the grant to help the traditional ADRCs in the state of Wisconsin. Now, every county has an ADRC.
They do since 2012.
But they're not all made equal.
No.
And they all have a little bit different twist. But ours is very unique, kind of similar to the fact that there's only 2 counties that have a school like Sybil Hop.
Right.
I don't know how many counties have the special 501(c) that we have.
We are the only one.
Oh, we are the only one. So why don't you talk about the uniqueness of that? Because I don't know if everybody understands the strategy and the fact that Brown County made the decision to allow the ADRC to go this route. And I have a feeling it was partly due to, I actually don't know the answer, but I'm guessing it was one, you have a strong, committed community that wanted to help fund, but because government couldn't accept donations, it created this nonprofit to be able to do that. And of course, it's Brown County, for all intents and purposes, wants to stick to very mandated, maybe just the bare means of running the program. And this was a way for the ADRC, recognizing that there's a lot of community members who wanted to help. This was a way for you guys to generate more revenue to provide for the programming and services to the residents who were seeking the assistance of the work that you provide. And at that time, we had long-term care, and there was a couple other things that were happening. Am I on the right path?
Yeah. So, this is not meant to be a long history lesson, right? But the origins of why we are structured the way we are is kind of like why we evolved into an ADRC as we did. So it actually goes back to 1979, way before both you and I were in these roles. And it was the county executive at that time. Aging programs from the federal government were coming to the state, and it was only for older adults. And the state had the requirement to put it out to counties who had the right to first refusal. Did they want to run aging programs or not? And much like what you're saying, the county executive at that time could see that there probably wasn't enough money to actually run the programs with what dollars were coming down. He did not want to turn away aging services because this community is large and was going to see the growth here and wanted to make sure that people were well served, and knew that government alone wasn't going to be able to do it. And so I would say, out of his wisdom way back then, 1979, was to create a win-win situation with aging programs. And that was to create an office on aging and then a commission on aging. And that's how we started, was through county board resolution, which is why our arrangement is so unusual, right? And there wasn't enough dollars. So he created a subunit of an aging unit. And at that time, there were only 2 staff, to give you a sense.
Wow.
And said, we need to help you in order for aging programs to thrive, but we want you to be able to do more and different things and be able to raise dollars and find ways to expand the service offering. Because the Older Americans Act, which is really the federal piece of legislation that we're born from, was meant to be seed money. And it's built right into the language that the intent is to get communities started and see where they go. And communities are expected to contribute to make it what it is. So we were born there, and I would say it's been a win-win since 1979. When we evolved and had the opportunity to write the grant to become an Aging and Disability Resource Center in 2005, there was an opportunity again to say, how could the county do this? Would they like to run it themselves, or would they want to contract or have us, who were then an aging resource center? We had evolved from a commission and a committee on aging. We started to grow with just our nutrition programs, et cetera, socialization, to take on the populations of persons with disabilities and the whole enrollment function that we do. We had been in that space and been doing this work, that it was a really natural place for it to come to us in partnership again with the county. So because we had this arrangement, we were able to become an ADRC. So it was a win for us, and it was a win for the county because we continue to be able to do more than most in a space that looks different than most ADRCs.
And when you say ADRC, become an ADRC, in 2005, what exactly happened at that point when you say you to become an ADRC?
To become an ADRC, so at that time, the entire long-term care system was being reinvented.
Okay.
right? Tommy Thompson was looking across the state. They could see that long-term care programs were not going to survive long-term. This was about sustainability. And what they had seen, and Donna McDowell, who happened to be at the head of the aging side of the state, saw that what aging units, like we were before, were really capturing people early and seeing them and connecting them to services that were a lot less expensive. So the structural model of an aging and disability resource center, that idea was piloted around the state. There were only 7 counties that did it originally to pilot and say, if we had an ADRC, took on populations that we didn't currently serve, but used that same methodology, that same core fundamental philosophy that all are welcome, that we reach you early, that we do prevention services and see that we keep you from needing expensive long-term care. That really wasn't available in traditional programs before, that we could develop this new network of agencies, ADRCs across the state, that could play that role and connect people to all the resources that they need that may not mean needing deep-end services. And at the same time around the state, what was happening is this fee-for-service model, which was the community options program and the waiver programs that human services were running, were being morphed into managed care models. And so you couldn't have an ADRC be the same entity as a managed care model. Right. And in this community, there was exploration going on. Would the county want to be, or put its hat in the ring, to be a managed care organization? And because we were a strong entity already, it made a lot of sense for us to be the ADRC and then see where the county wanted to take the other half of it so that people could be well served. And it was a win-win because we were already there and present. We could integrate our aging services along with transition services for youth and serve persons with disabilities who are 18 and older in a way that's more integrated, smooth, efficient, and all together under one roof. Our county was known as a Generation 2 ADRC. We wrote the grant for the second round of pilots. And because of that, we got to step out earlier. We got to try some innovative things before the system spread throughout the entire state. And think of how long that took. Right? All the way to 2012 before there was full coverage. A lot of people look to us in Brown County and say, well, you guys had this advantage. You had all these years to really build up something wonderful because if you waited to become an ADRC, you were handed a lot of regulation and a lot of here's what you must do and not enough staff to do it. So we partnered early, we wrote the grant early, we stepped out early, and as a result, we spent 10 years building up a resource that other communities couldn't just be a resource center, they had to be an enrollment and a long-term care provider in essence, that we had 10 years to really develop and thrive in that space. So when we became the people processing long-term care, we were already really strong in the prevention and front-end space, which is truly the value of an ADRC nationwide. Other states look to Wisconsin tremendously. Many ADRCs across the nation, there may be 2 or 3 for the entire state, and Wisconsin has 51 with multiple counties under one.
Then you have to give a lot of credit to the people that came before us to recognize that as our population is going to age, and there's going to be a need, and there's a cost associated with that high-cost care. If there's things that we can do to help that individual stay in their home longer, their quality of life, their mental health, there's a lot of things, right? I know that you guys provide information to help people who are transitioning to better understand and navigate the world, how to make sure that their resources are not being overconsumed, and at the same time, what's going to help them live a long, healthy next 2 decades or whatever it might be. Fall prevention, games, all the things that you guys do at the ADRC. So let's just kind of talk about that in terms of the ADRC and part of your core mission. So
I often describe it as like 3 main buckets of things that we do. And there's millions of things within those buckets. But the one that I always start with, right, is come early and come often. So the more we see people and the more often they come in and they are engaged in things that are engaging to them, that they have great interests, that we're capitalizing on their strengths, that we're finding ways that they're connecting to other people. That is a really wonderful space to be in because that buys people a tremendous amount of time and energy and connection. We know that isolation and loneliness is equivalent to smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. There's a lot of data that shows the damage for folks who are not able or are not connecting to other people. There's a great cost to our community, right? So ADRCs are often in that space. What are the things that help make people deteriorate early, that injure their brain health, that injure or don't prevent chronic conditions? So you'll see us in this early space are education, this prevention mode. We have bingo size, we have rock painting, we have all of these lovely fun things. We have yoga, we have community dining, our community cafes where people can come and join and eat and sit across the table, connect. All of those things that we do early make it a warm, welcoming environment so that I say the second bucket is just in time, just at the right time kind of service that we do. All of this out here that's in the front end may look like it's fun and games, but it's the best marketing tool you could ever have. That we reduce stigma and people are not afraid to come to us because when they came, they weren't walking in the door and the first thing is, what's the matter with you? What's going on with you? We need to put you in a nursing home. If that's what people feel, it should not at all feel like a place that's happening. It should feel like a place that you belong. And if that's the case and we catch it early, that meal that we might give you might cost the government $11, but we've just saved $500 a day for you being in an institution because of that. So that's that.
I need to jump in.
Yes. If
you have not been down to the ADRC and seen the transition they've made inside their 4 walls, it is 100% a welcoming, fun, vibrant space that anyone can go in and enjoy. And we'll get to discussing the Grounded Cafe and the dining and the plans ahead. That stigma that you talked about, that it's in a place for not necessarily, it's kind of like where I'm going to go before I go to my grave. It is not that. No. It's actually a celebration about what's going to happen next. And we're here to help you make sure it's a fun, comfortable experience. Now, of course, no guarantees in anything in life, but your atmosphere, the staff that work there are dedicated. They always have smiles. I always get that warm welcome. So it's a great place. And I bring that up because, Devon, that is a lot due to your leadership and vision as far as where to take the ADRC into the future. And when you took over the helm, a lot of the renovation plans, the Grounded Cafe, that's really your vision and leadership that brought to the table. And we all know that we have people underneath us that work side by side that are passionate about it. And our success is ultimately their success because they helped us get to this point. But in the end, I don't think we have those without your dedication and leadership.
Thank you.
I just wanted to kind of jump in and just as you were kind of talking about the ADRC and that catching the early, getting in there, and the space that's been created is absolutely fantastic. And I know that when I have gone in there a couple times or when I go there for coffee meets, I will see people who are regulars. I will see people who are normal business people that are coming and going on their busy days. And then I'll see people who are in their next chapter and just enjoying retirement and having a coffee with a long lost friend or some people playing bingo. So it's a great space that you created there.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that you appreciate that too. And I hear that often because the vision for it's amazing how one community space can really change the face of connectivity among people at all kinds of levels. And that people who come, and they're business people, a lot of times, the thing we hate to hear, but it often happens, right? People walk in, I didn't expect it to look like this, because they expect it to look, which is why we put the mural on the outside of our building, just to try and say and give an image of, this is where the garden grows. This is, we're all in this together. This is a sense of belonging. This is your community. It's not mine, it's yours. And we will make it what we want, but us being together is always stronger than apart, right? And when you come and you connect, we have attorneys who come in and grab lunch, we've got the police department officers who are coming in and grabbing lunch, we have county employees, we have professionals who say, if you're going to meet me for coffee at the Grounded Cafe, because they know that it says something about them when they invite somebody there, that they're a person who values integration and celebrating abilities of all people. And it may take a minute longer to get your coffee through the coffee line because the person learning is somebody with a disability. But that is absolutely worth every second that they wait.
Are we ready for that transition?
I guess we're kind of
I think
going
you're
there.
walking right into it.
Okay. I did want to back up, though, for 1 second and say, so in that welcoming space, we see all the rooms that are around. We have a wellness studio and we have rooms where all these activities are going. We have really started to shape the kinds of activities that we're doing to also be very educational and evidence-based. So you're going to see healthy living with chronic conditions. You're going to see powerful tools for caregivers. You're going to see incontinence programs that you would think, who's going to come to an incontinence program if you put it out? It's called MOM is the name of it. Flooded. Always a wait list. It's fantastic. We find niches of things that people are worried about but don't talk about, but they need education about. And then the classes, Phil, in their evidence-based classes, we can really move the needle in that person's life around their health, their chronic condition, their diabetes, their falls. If we save one person from falling, we have partnerships with all of the emergency departments and the EMS and all of that because they realize every time somebody falls, it turns into a huge trajectory, 57% mortality rate, not because they broke the hip, but everything that happens after.
Yeah, my dad, 87, fell at the VA here, broke his shoulder. Still, they just
so long.
3 months. He's now at King rehabilitating, but that took a lot out of him. And we're all praying that he makes it through. He's at the King Center is absolutely amazing. The people there are absolutely wonderful, and his care is amazing. You know, and one of the things I don't want to miss on this is the importance of education for caregivers.
Exactly.
The stress in what happens with just their mental capacity in trying to help their loved one. We have to remember that the caregiver needs some breaks. They need time off to be able to get their own capacity and mental stability back. You guys offer some solutions and some feedback and help in that space, correct?
So when I talk about the prevention and wellness, and then we move to the just-in-time or right at the right time kinds of support, every time that you meet with one of our options counselors or ADRC specialists that come out, we'll do home visits, office visits, see people across the table. We want to see the environment because we know 80% of all care is provided by family. So we have this folklore that there's all this paid care going in for people. Families are providing care to their loved ones. It's their lack of identifying themselves as caregivers that actually create a lot of the stress. They just think, well, this is what you're supposed to do, not realizing now they're spending 25 hours a week supporting care to their parent or their sibling. And they're like, oh my gosh, and I'm working, I'm trying to balance my kids, my parents. We know 1 in 3 people are caregivers. And we've got 60,000 older adults, people 60 or older in this community, and about 18,000 of folks over 18 with a disability. Now, double that for everyone who's a caregiver. And 58% of all those caregivers are working. So this is not for the faint of heart. Our job, again, is to keep people out of institutions as long as we possibly can. If we provide support to that caregiver, we are buying every day another day for that person to stay at home. But we have to care for that person who's doing the care for the caregiver. And so we've got evidence-based classes teaching people how to set boundaries. We've got an Alzheimer's Family Caregiver Support Program and a National Family Caregiver Support Program where we do assessments, put action plans together, can actually help people get respite care so that they get a break from what they're doing, or maybe it's some housekeeping that's needed so that that daughter isn't cleaning her own house, getting her kids off to school, and then coming over and cleaning mom's house and then going to work. You can only do that so long, and then the whole kind of system crumbles, right? A little bit can go a long way.
Yeah, and I think the message here to our listeners is that if you are a caregiver for one of your loved ones, know that there are resources and help for you. And don't feel like you're doing this alone, and don't allow yourself to get burnt out. You want to be able to take advantage of the services that your organization and agency provide. So
absolutely,
I think it's important for people to realize that that's another one of those great things that you do provide for our community.
And one of the other big ones around that caregiving role, right, is dementia. I always say dementia changes everything. It's really challenging when you have a physical issue, But if your parent or your loved one has Alzheimer's disease or another form of dementia, it changes the entire trajectory of everything, because you might be able to physically be able to do a whole bunch of things. But if you can't call for help, if you're leaving something on the stove, if you're starting to have catastrophic reactions and challenging behaviors, if you don't feel safe, that caregiver's their stress is like doubling really quickly, because they're always thinking something bad's going to happen. And so we have a dementia care specialist on staff, and we are doing huge work in that space around creating dementia-friendly communities. Dementia-Friendly Coalition helps also with us pushing out many programs, like we have something called Time Slips, and we have something called Spark now, where we're working with all of the museums. And we were able to write a grant to help lift up a program where caregivers and their loved one with dementia can go to the Malva, can go to the Neville, can go to Casa Albuquerque, and we're running special programs and helping training those staff so that people have a place to go and feel safe and have an activity that's appropriate and gets them out of the house, so they're not just sitting isolated at home, feeling and focusing on how incredibly challenging this situation is. And so we combine that with our decision support and options counseling, our dementia care specialists, and then creating changes in our community so we understand, empathize, reduce stigma, and help and welcome people back into the community where they belong and our community want them to be.
With dementia, it impacts so many people in our community. We are working on trying to make this community more aware. There's training. So if your business was interested in becoming a dementia-friendly Purple Angel, they just reach out to your organization?
They sure can. It's a training that we do to help businesses become dementia-friendly. We've had banks, barbershops, grocery stores, all kinds of places.
Why is it important for businesses and places in the public to become educated on that individual who may be coming into the place of business and acting what most people are kind of like, well, that's weird, or is this person okay? There are definitely signs that can help us better understand that individual, and rather than being scared of it, be more welcoming for it.
And respond in a way that helps them feel like they're okay to connect to someone else if they're aware and they see this happening in a family struggling. Let's just say a bank, for example, because they've been some of our big adopters of really knowing here are older people coming into the bank and they're struggling with what they're trying to add up on the deposit slip, and they see interactions that are challenging, that they know how to respond to that person to make them feel calm and welcome and not afraid. We have so many caregivers that are afraid to ever bring their loved one anywhere because they feel judged and they're afraid their person is going to do something that looks not right. But if they see that sticker as they walk in, they know they will not be judged when they come in and they make a mistake or the person starts to react. And then that business also knows how to get connected to us.
So I'll leave it at this. If you're listening and you want your business, or you are a business owner and you want your business to get the training, reach out to the ADRC.
Please do.
Find out how you can have your community or your organization be trained.
Yes.
And of course, if you have someone who has dementia, look for that Purple Angel sticker in the window. It will give you a sign that at least this company has done some training to better understand your loved one who's coming into that space. We do need to start moving on to some other of the exciting things that are happening. Before we get into the big project that still is not set in stone, but it's getting very close to being at that point where we're going to make some significant decisions and allocate real money. We have a number of individuals who are in our community who want to be in our workforce, but because of training, understanding of certain skill sets, it was difficult for employers to bring those individuals into their workspaces and provide them with meaningful employment. And you decided that you're going to change that and create a space where individuals can get training, they can have meaningful impact, they can have pride and work and feel like they're contributing to this society in a way that perhaps never was really available to them at the scale or perhaps the love that is being present today, and that is the Grounded Cafe. And that's, I think when you talk about people wanting to bring people to the ADRC, I think it's really to showcase the Grounded Cafe and their support for what that mission is. It's not just a coffee shop for ADRC that generate revenue. for all intents and purposes, it's break even. The reality is you're giving a place for people that perhaps wouldn't have that opportunity, and it's such a wonderful place.
This was 6 years ago, 7 when I started dreaming, and 6 when we finally were able to launch it. I think the way that, we always approach things is, one, we look at where are the pressure points, where are the challenges in our community, how we solve these problems, and we can't solve them with the same hammer. We're going to have to step out into the innovation space if we're really ever going to move the needle on some of the things that have been a problem or a challenge for years and years and years. Because if all we needed was a hammer, we would have all fixed this a long time ago. So what I would say, and I talk about strategic foresight, and I talk about, that's my futuring, background is just, I really feel like what we're seeing even today is even more risk tolerance than we've had before, because as things get tighter, it isn't that we need to circle the wagons. We need to step into the space of innovation because we have to find other ways to do it. So this was a moment, 7 years ago, saying we have all of these folks who are coming to us with disabilities and the unemployment rate is massive. If they do get a job, they can't stay in that job. There isn't an environment that is 100% like caring, surrounding with support of people to learn those skills and make a tremendous amount of mistakes and not be perfect for quite a while. A lot of hand-over-hand support. There are many wonderful agencies that will bring people into another work environment and help them learn some skills. But there's a big difference in the entire environment being that place where you are safe. You're going to be cheered on by every person who walks up to you. We call it Grounded University. So we are teaching people with disabilities stations of how to learn to work in the restaurant business, how to be a barista, how to make salads, how to do customer service, all of those things in a space where they're totally welcome. That would have been one problem, right? Of how do we create these opportunities? The other problem is we had community dining for older adults that had shrinking amounts of people coming to them, even though the population was growing. So we run a donation-based meal for people who are 60 and older. So I saw these two things kind of happening and realizing we had to modernize what we were doing to attract people to come to actually eat and get good nutrition who are older. And we had employment gaps and a need for people to have job skills and job training. And we needed to reduce stigma and have it be the best kind of program that would draw people in early to do our value to the government, like I've been talking about all along. So this idea of Grounded Cafe started with how can we train people with disabilities and put them at the front of the house, at the cash register. Right. They're not just doing dishes, and people can see them being cheered on and their abilities are being celebrated at the same time that an older person who that stigma of I'm going to the nursing home, I'm going just to that senior center to get an older person meal. If that person who is very low income needs a donation-based meal who's over 60, we have Gathering Grounds, which is our nutrition program where they pay us what they can afford for that meal. But people coming in with resources, that police officer, that attorney, that professional, that family with children, coming in buying a latte, are sitting all together and you don't know who is who. We're not going to change how we see people until we see people. So that was my whole drive, is to say, how do we see each other? Because we reduce barriers of connection and understanding if we sit together. And as time went on, we realized we're onto something here, not because we don't make money. We depend on donations. Because it takes more time, right? It takes more staff, takes more people to make this program work. But what I realized is it was only going to serve people who could make their way to us, right? So people had to have transportation. How are we ever serving rural people? How can we get the same magic other places? So I wrote a grant to the Nelson Foundation to be able to purchase a food truck. And not just any food truck. We had to build it. It had to be accessible because we darn tootin' want people with wheelchairs in that food truck serving you. County Picnic, the main person who walked us through that entire food truck is one of our trainees. He served $1,200 worth of purchases all day. And he was so proud and was so awesome. And he has limited mobility and he could do it on that food truck. And so we take that on the road. And we now, just this year, implemented a swipe card process where people who register are over 60, wherever you see our food truck, And you can find the food truck. All of this is on our website. We have a Facebook page. Please like us, like Grounded, like our ADRC page. We tell you where we are, when we are, and how to find us. Any person over 60 can come and use their swipe card and have a donation-based meal off that food truck or buy a meal if you're not. And that's for grandparents to bring grandchildren. That's for, we pull up to businesses. We pull up to wherever we can find a space where we can bring this mission. And whenever we're doing a lunch and learn along with that, we're doing education wherever we can. But so we want to bring that good feeling and that stigma reduction wherever we go. So that food truck, we've been super busy this summer trying to get the word out and bringing it to people into rural communities, which is my other big bucket that I had talked about. These buckets, come early, come often, always just in time. And then it is being a community catalyst. We have a responsibility in that third bucket to change the world, basically. And we do this at macro level. We run many, many coalitions. We are in Denmark. We are doing a caregiver coalition, a dementia coalition, a prevention coalition, a falls coalition. So we are leading many of these charges. Often, several were in collaboration with the health department, but many are on our own, where we're pulling together all the community partners and saying, what do we do to solve this community problem in this innovative space as partners? And if we all do something, we can get much further. And so we have a nutrition advisory council, and many of these ideas are about us getting food and nutrition, because older adults, we have real concerns about food access. Getting this to them because they can't drive here from those locations is critical to us. We've gotten some other great grants from the university, from others saying, please spread this word. And our truck has the same mural on it that our building does. If you've not seen it, it's bold and bright, and it has our mission right on the side. Darn it, we serve good food too. People aren't going to come just for a mission. We have community gardens. We grow our own stuff, much of it. We have our tomatoes are really good right now. We make our own soups. We make our own bakery. We don't buy it from somewhere else and just put it in there. It's baked every morning. So it has to be good. Our salads are lovely. We want it to be healthy, not deep fried cheese curds. Other people do that, and we're glad for it. We really have to serve 1/3 RDA. To be able to serve the government-based, donation-based meal has to have fruits, vegetables, protein, all of that. So we take that same combination and make delicious stuff with it.
And in all of that, you brought up the comment about collaboration. We're right now in the midst of a discussion with other county, state partners. I would say that we're in this 2-year process of examining this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've knocked down many obstacles or barriers that may have not allowed this partnership to become a reality. Anytime that you can bring a function of a state agency, nonprofit, a restaurant, and a county operation all under one roof with so many different funding mechanisms, this was not a challenge that was going to be easy, but if we all believed in the outcome and the objective and why the collaboration and space together made sense, we would knock down those barriers.
Right.
And I think we're in that good spot. We still have some hurdles to get beyond. Mm-hmm. Even working with the city of Green Bay, we've had to, and they've been helpful. In the end, Brown County could be investing close to $30 million in renovating a section of the downtown Green Bay County assets. I want to save this for another podcast, as I believe that inside and outside of this space, there's a bigger mission, a bigger conversation. You, Sarah Sugden, the Brown County Library Director, and Vicki Patterson from Bay Area Workforce all sat together and mapped out if we wanted to be partners in the future, how could we make that happen? Why don't you kind of talk about the concept that you've presented to the county board, the oversight committees, which have all signed off on the concept. Mm-hmm. Now we're getting into the detail, right?
Bet. Yeah. So you know how I just kind of described about solving community problems, right?
Yep.
It's where 7 years ago we were thinking about Grounded Cafe, that space of innovation that we have to live if we're going to solve these large problems. Signals, future thinking, and strategic foresight is bringing us to this place, I would say, as we are looking, what are the signals in each one of our areas that are spurring us to say, these are problems that are bigger than we can solve on our own. And there's this larger nugget that we have to head towards. It's not easy. You have to be persistent. You have to jump over all the hurdles. But to get there, you have to have a vision for it. And why would you do it, right? People would say, why would you, after you've created all of this, why would you try to step into a different space? And there's always angst. You don't start with just, let's jump off the cliff. You've got to think it through about what we're solving. So we have 3 entities. You've got a library system and a downtown need. Quite honestly, Sarah would be the first to say you got this big 90,000 square foot building that was built, 40, 50 years ago. It wasn't able to be activated in the same way. And users are using libraries differently. And I will give her a tremendous amount of credit for being open and willing and interested in saying, we've got this space. How can we use this in a way that benefits a library system, but other partners too, and a city where it lives? And so changing service models with the library, workforce development, changing service model where how do people get employment support? Where do they go for information? Are people walking into a job center physically? Is that the predominant way that people are reaching them? What do people really need to connect and get supported through job services? Because they are vital. We would say the interface for us also is we've got a growing demographic we'll never keep up with. We are kind of like the elephant in the room, right? We're coming with a tremendous amount of population that needs more and more and more that we can't do alone. We also have this interface of where are our alliances, right? We're all about resource and information. We share a core service of educating the public, helping them get connected to the things they need when they need it, just in time and as early as possible, with good at your fingertips resources and not duplicating that effort. We all care about employment services because people are coming to the library to use technology and computers as a community space to do that. And job centers needed more community space and a place where people could feel free to come and do that and get extra training that they could be in all of these communities. Older adults are going to have second acts. I've been thinking about this for a long time. By 2040, right, this next demographic are outliving their resources, right? They didn't inherit the generational wealth that some of the previous generations did. And so they're working longer. The retirement age is higher. We need people to be thinking about now what? And not only do I bet, I know a lot of the current research that we're seeing is saying people are definitely working longer and they need to reinvent their skill set. So we were focused on people with disabilities, and now we are really focused on older adults, too, in finding a second act, but staying connected, coming at points of transition, getting access to all these things. So we all are aligned in those core belief systems and current knowledge that this is the space we need to be in. Now add the other layer of we've got a big building in a section of downtown that needs a facelift, honestly, and it needs a space that's seen as a great place to go instead of I have to go, or I want my kids to avoid, or there's nothing there for me, or those are just empty lots. The city totally sees, and when we see the mayor, they're super excited about the opportunity for this space to get activated in a way that becomes a community space. We're seeing other libraries doing some of this stuff similarly, but they're often trying to renovate their own library just for library purposes. When you see a library wanting to reinvent itself and bringing partners in with the county where we can create some efficiencies and align missions, that's innovation in a space that we can do so much more. We love the idea of intergenerational opportunities, that we are as excited about the children's space as we are the space where we might do some of our other work. Having kids come through and be part of bringing their grandparents in, or we're seen as being able to do programming. The other super huge excitement for me, and I see we will never be able to do, is what I said earlier about why we did a food truck. This is my food truck in brick and mortar. Being part of the artery system of the library is an absolute win-win. We've already started doing lunch and learns in the other library locations. When we belong there, we don't duplicate all of the programs on tech training and we have one on fiber and nutrition, and we're doing a lot of education, and we were going to other places. Well, now this is naturally where we belong, and we can schedule it and we can bring people in. Libraries win, we bring in people in. We win because we're getting access to people in locations we could never afford to have other rent that we pay to be present in satellite locations. We all win because we are sharing the technology support that we all need. And it's the same customer. That same customer can come to one place and be served in so many different ways. And then not to mention that lovely Grounded Cafe that is what is the best marketing tool you could ever have, because who doesn't love a great cup of coffee and a great magazine where we can do a donation-based meal and have people with disabilities learning in a truly integrated place where kids are coming with their grandparents and you're coming to get service, but you can also have a meal. And we have some great branding around the new name and why we would do this and what's important. It is exactly the point that we are all about bringing this community together in a brand new space that people want to be, not have to be.
Are you prepared to share kind of that branding at this point, or are we still too early for that?
We worked with a local marketing firm with Chrome, and we've worked with Eden Weller and with Berner Schober, the architects, to put a vision together about what it could look like. And the language and the visual space creates this new community-activated space called Third on the Square. It's going to be not an ADRC, not a library, not a job center. We will all be there, but the actual building and space would be called Third on the Square. It's a third space. It's a space where you have work, you have home, but this is a space where you gather and you connect, and there's all kinds of residual great things that happen as a result.
So I think what we're going to do, Devon, because this podcast is going on to almost an hour, we are going to save the Third on the Square for our next podcast, where we can talk a little bit more in depth about what this collaboration truly means and how we are going to be able to deliver better services in a more collaborative space. And we're actually going to create a better space. And there's just so much that can happen here that I think, as you mentioned, the library had a 90,000 square foot facility that did what it was supposed to do when it was initially
Its heyday was
built.
fantastic.
That building has great bones. It just needs new activation inside. I hope what you learn from these podcasts that we have really dedicated individuals who represent government agencies who are truly trying to find efficient ways, mission-based ways to deliver services to the residents of this community in a manner that is not wasteful to the taxpayer, that is meaningful, and ultimately creates the community that we all want to live, work, and play in. But more on that on our next episode when we talk about Third on the Square. And we invite Devon back to talk to us, Jeff.
So a lot more to come, Devon. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, I'm Nikki with the Brown County Parks Department, talking about summer fun with Brown County Parks. Just want to kick off some of our information in a series that we have going on in our parks, which include Monday night food trucks at Pamprin Park. Those events are being ran all Monday nights in summer. We offer over 3 to 5 different food trucks each Monday night. There are 23 different food trucks that participate in this event, but we pick 3 to 5 and rotate them out to keep every night interesting and fun, giving you different food options. They're a great opportunity for you to come out to Pamprin Park, explore the park, participate in some disc golf if you would like to, or just tire out the kids on the playground. It's a great time to come out, bring the fur babies with you. Dogs on leash are invited to come as well. So enjoy Pamprin Park and check out our food trucks.
Welcome back to Brown County in Focus. I'm Jeff Flint, the Brown County Deputy Executive, joined as always by Brown County Executive Troy Streckenbach. And the goal of the ADRC nutrition program and projected central kitchen, definitely room for part 2. This is going to be more of an episodic look.
We didn't even
get
talk
there.
about the central kitchen, which is an integral piece of all the moving parts. But our goal is to have a central kitchen. We've outsourced that for the 600 plus meals that we do on a daily basis. Our goal is to increase that to 1,000, right? That's what the ADRC wants to be able to accomplish. So yes, we have a conversation about the Third on the Square, and then in the same lane as part of this project is the central kitchen that we're going to build.
Troy, thank you for sitting down with us today, and we'll be back next time with more stories and more information, more public service from Brown County in Focus.